Hello, welcome to another Retrocore's hardware review, and this is video game M17 by SG Gam, and this one was actually provided to me by Datafrog. I'll put a link in the video description down below if you're interested in buying this under $50 just about handheld gaming device. Now straight away you can see that they are trying to sell it off as a PSP, and yes, it does have PSP emulation on it, but no, it's not very good. In fact, for $50 or just under $50, you shouldn't expect something to play PSP perfectly, and this does not. So let's get that out of the way first of all. But what do we get in the box? Well, let's open it up and find out. So we've got the unit itself, which I have been testing, but I'll put it back in there just so you can see a proper unboxing. And this one is a very unique grey colour. Kind of reminiscent of NES or NES, kind of. We'll take a look at the system a bit more closer up in a moment. We also get the usual instructions. These instructions are all in Chinese, however the device does have English on it, so don't worry about that. And we have the obligatory USB-C charging cable. Alright. Now this particular unit came with a 64GB SD card, completely jam-packed, and I did check the SD card, and yes, it is actually 64GB. Now on the top of the machine we've got the power switch, which I'll just switch on there. We've got the micro SD card slot, a headphone jack, and the USB-C input. Around the back of the system we have what may look like two speaker grills, but in fact we only have one speaker grill, so no stereo sound on this device. But remember, it is just under $50. On the side of the device we have nothing. Alright. Now, here's the interesting thing. When you boot it up with the SD card inside the machine, you get the usual emulation setup. But, watch this. If you boot up the machine without the SD card in, you get something completely different. Obviously they do this so they can get around any legal pirate issues. So we've taken out the SD card and it will boot up as an original games machine. Watch this. There we go. All net chip games, and definitely these are NES based, and let's be honest, they are bloody awful. There are how many? 31 games in total, and yeah, they are pretty weak. Let's just take a look at this one here, for example. How do we start it? There we go, press start. Oh, it's a Titanic. It's let's turn up the volume a little bit. Where's the volume? Oh, here it is. It's up on the top, isn't it? Oh, I've turned the volume off. Alright, let's get into the Titanic. Rose your jack. We'll go Rose. And yeah, just look how janky that is. Oh man, that is bad. So yeah, as you can see, the games that come with it, which are free, or I shouldn't say free, built in, are not exactly good. No idea what's going on. So let's put that micro SD card back into the device and boot up some proper emulation. Alright. Alright, so straight away it boots into the Sony PSP section, and you can see it's got 150 games. But how about all games? Well, if we leave it there, you can see it's got 19,645 games. Going into PlayStation here, we've got 51 games, Neo Geo Pocket, Mega Drive, Game Gear, Genesis, which is Mega Drive, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color, Nintendo 64, doesn't play them very well, Nintendo Super Famicom, so Super Nintendo Super Famicom, same thing, Game Boy Hacks, then NES Hacks, normal NES, PC Engine, Capcom, System Arcade, Atari Lynx, Atari 7800, blah 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 blah. So as you can see, there is an awful lot on here, but not all the powerful stuff is going to work. So PSP doesn't work, for example, and they know that because what they've gone and done is put on a few games and then filled up the rest of it with minis, PSP minis. when it comes to running real PlayStation 5 games, it's not the best, as you'll see here when we run Tekken. Now while we're waiting for that to load, let me just show you the screen. Now as you can see, tilting it all the way, you can still see it's perfectly clear. It is an LCD screen, but it is a very nice LCD screen, I must say. Alright, so let's get a little bit closer to the screen, and any flickering that you're seeing is not because of the screen, it's just the way the camera's picking up the image. So let's get a bit closer and you can see this in more detail. Yeah, as you can clearly hear, that is not good, is it? And it certainly runs very slowly. So yeah, PSP is a loss, but no problem, we can get out of that pretty easily by pressing the start and select button together, and then we can go into the save state menu. Now this save state menu is the same on all the emulators in this device. And I've crushed it! Alright, nice one. Okay. Oh, there we go, we're going again. Okay, resume game. Okay, let's start up the game. And let's load the save state. Yeah, it did work. Okay. Alright, let's get out of that. So, as you can see, PSP does not work very well, and as I said, you shouldn't expect it to work very well on a device that only costs just under $50. Alright, so let's go back into the other emulators and see what does work on this. And I'll get a better angle as well so you can see the screen better. Okay, so I've put this slightly out of focus, so hopefully that will get rid of the horrible effect on the screen, so that shouldn't bother you too much now, although it is slightly out of focus. So here we are taking a look at some Nintendo 64 emulation. Let's see how it handles this game. This is Aero Gauge. Yeah, a little bit yeah, it's not perfect. The audio is skipping and the frame rate is, yeah, it's lagging. Yeah, now normally this game will work on most emulators because it's not a very demanding game, but yeah, while it seems to be at a playable frame rate, it is definitely not the 60 frames per second that it should be. Well, actually, no, it's 30 frames per second, I should say. This game doesn't run at 60 frames per second. Okay, let's get out of that. Now, probably the most powerful machine that this will run without issues is the PlayStation. So let's take a look at a PlayStation game. Okay, so this is Contra Force on the PlayStation. And as you can clearly see, or clearly hear, the audio tracks have not been included in the RIP that comes with this device, which is a shame, but I'm sure you can clearly see that the game is running perfectly well. So PlayStation emulation does work extremely well on this device, except for one major issue. Now, it may not bother some people, but it certainly bothers me, and I'm sure it bothers others: the aspect ratio. As you can clearly see, this is stretched to 16:9 and you cannot change it to 4:3. Going into the menu system by using Start and Select, all we've got are the save state options and a disk control. And all a disk control does is let you change the disk image. Or so if you're playing like a multi-disc game, you cannot change the actual screen aspect ratio. And that goes for everything on this device, including Game Boy. Oh yes, just take a look at how Game Boy looks on here. We're not talking Game Boy Advance, we're talking normal Game Boy. So let's go into normal Game Boy, and you know, let's just pick anything at random. Yeah, stretchy Game Boy. Yeah, it really does look that horrible. Now, it may not bother some people, but certainly bothers me. Look at that! That is odd. And again, any flickering you're seeing on the screen is not there in real life, just the way the camera is capturing the image. But what about Game Boy Advance games, since Game Boy Advance does use a wider screen? Well, let's take a look. Okay, we're going to use Duke Nukem, since Duke Nukem is a game that tends to mess up on poor emulators. Let me just turn down the volume a little bit. Alright, not bad at all. Now it is still stretched a little bit since the Game Boy Advance screen is not 16:9, although it is wider than a 4:3, so it doesn't look too bad actually. And it's handling this very well indeed. How about arcade emulation? Well, let's see, where's my usual guy gone? I haven't played this game in so long. Alright, let's get my buttons ready. Here we go. Okay. Now I'm happy to report that the D-pad seems to be working pretty well. I can get my moves out, although I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm dead. Excellent. Here we go, we got Keith. Come on, Keith. Oh, getting wrecked. There we go. Oh, I'm dead. Alright. But there you go, there's arcade emulation there, not too bad. Atari 7800, do they actually have any games in here? Oh yes they do. Let's boot up Commando on the 7800. This should be a laugh. Okay, we'll put on Novice. Now I can use the digital stick or the analog stick. Of course the analog stick is acting as a digital stick, but it is nice to have the option. This isn't too bad actually. Now of course this device is going to run everything else on here flawlessly except the Nintendo 64 and the PSP. But I'm not too sure about the Atari Lynx, so let's enter the Lynx section, 102 games, and let's Zaku? Looks like Air Zong from the PC Engine, or Bonk. Interesting. Anyway, let's give Atari Lynx a try and see how good the emulation is. And yeah, we'll go with Stun Runner. This is pretty good on the Lynx. Okay, the actual screen is a bit blurry, but you know, maybe that's because the Lynx is so low resolution in the first place. Right, digital or D-pad or analog stick can be used. And believe it or not, that is running very well. Not bad at all. So it looks like Atari Lynx emulation is a good one on this. So there we have it, that is the M17. It's certainly not going to set the world on fire in terms of emulation quality, but for a little device under $50, it's not bad. I mean, we get a really good screen on it. It plays a lot of devices very well. Unfortunately, it is stretched to 16:9, which for me is a bit of a deal breaker, but for you it may not matter. It really depends on the individual. Now, as I said, we should not expect this to be playing PSP games or Nintendo 64 games, even though it is capable of running the emulation. I mean, it will run the games, but they're not going to be very good. So, keep your expectations in mind, and if your expectations are not so high, check out the link in the video description down below if you're interested in buying one of these from Datafrog. Till next time guys, keep on gaming, enjoy your games, I'll see you later. Bye.